Welcome to the Kackbrat Chronicles.
Okay, recording. All right, there we go. Elzahn Nel, welcome to the Kackbrat Chronicles.
Thank you. Yes, Philip. I thought this was our first time meeting, but I'm sorry about that. We've actually met before.
It's fine. I've got one of those faces that's apparently very forgettable, so don't don't worry about that. To be fair though, this was what 12 years ago. It's a long time ago, and it was just that one time. So it's but no, actually no. I think we
Oh, shit.
we were at a wedding. I think we were at a wedding in what's that fancy place that the people from Sevendelaan always used to go on holiday? Damn it, man. We were at a wedding somewhere. I think David Johnson's wedding. Was it? I think it was David Johnson's wedding where we also had a few things there.
Yes, a few, just a few. Yeah, I think that was in 2010, and that was the year that I met my husband, and all the people that came with him. So I think there are a few faces that I've forgotten, but it's nice to catch up again.
Yeah. So you are. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. I had to just make sure on Google. Mademoiselle L.
Mademoiselle L. Yes. Yes, that is part of the. That is part of the. I mean, I'm not really sure yet where I want that to go. It's just something that I've been playing around with for the last couple of months. I've got no problem in my work or in my personal life to change direction when I see something isn't working, and I've got no problem to kind of try things out. So Mademoiselle is the French, some French Huguenot, and my mother's family is 5th generation in Franschhoek, and it's actually a really lovely story how the farm came to be. So my cousin is now on the farm, and it's actually a lovely story how the farm came to be in the family. But anyway, that's 5th generation French Huguenot, and I was given a French Huguenot cross at birth. I think all the cousins were given one. So that's where Mademoiselle comes from. And then Al was one of my nicknames at school. Well, actually, it was Ella. One was Al and one was Ella. And the Ella came from, so this was in primary school. Ella came from Ella in Fekukpaleis because my friends said that I was the one that was always kind of riled up and the angry one, like the one who's ready to go and stir some shit. So that's where Ella came from. And so I don't know. Maybe one day I'll change it to Mademoiselle Ella. Mademoiselle L, I don't know.
Yeah, but listen, you've got me interested now about the farm. If you don't mind telling the story about what you said now about how the farm came to be.
Yeah, sure. So I'm bad with names. I'm not going to get this right, but it was my grandfather's grandfather, I think. Just doing a quick bit of math to check. But yeah, I think it was my grandfather's grandfather, and he lived in the Drakenstein area, and he'd heard about this farm in Franschhoek that will be going on sale, and he wanted to go and have a look at the farm. But he had to go by horse, and he was dependent on the weather for the weather to be good so that he could cross the river to get into Franschhoek. And a couple of people told him, the weather is going to be bad, you can't go, there's going to be heavy rains or whatever. But he had a weather glass, and we still have this. It's still on the farm. So it's an old weather glass. So it looks like a wine bottle with, if I remember correctly, there's I don't know, it's like a little triangle shaped piece of glass that sits inside the wine bottle. And I'm not remembering this 100% correctly, but the weather glass is an indicator of whether it's going to rain or not. So he decided not to listen to the people that were saying, no, you can't go. He decided to consult the weather glass, which indicated that there won't be rain. So then he decided to go, and he got on his horse and he went to Franschhoek and he looked at the farm and he bought it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually
did an interview with a French television channel. I think it was about 6 years ago. So it was me and my grandfather, my mom and my aunts. They came down from France and they shot this beautiful interview, and my grandfather had the weather glass. He had it there, he had it with him. And it's quite special. It's quite special to be a part of, like a story like that, like a colorful story, a rich, interesting story.
Yeah, it's a simple little thing that obviously grew into buying a farm and all of that. Just started with not listening to the bullshit of other people.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, which is maybe a trend continuing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we will get to that in a second. So you are a South African artist, but I want to ask you this because you do so many things. Can you just describe sort of what type of artist you are and what type of art you do?
Yes, I can try. No, I'm kidding. I feel like that is a loaded question because
it is a bit broad, but yeah,
it's a loaded question. It comes with, it's accompanied by what I believe it all means and blah blah blah. But anyway, let me have a go at it. So I am a drawing and installation artist. So my great love, so I'm not talking about my husband or my child, let's just put them aside. My great love is making installation. And I often describe installation art to people as contemporary sculpture. So you're not necessarily using clay or bronze or wood to create something. You're using what is available to you, and it can take the shape of whatever. So I've done installation art with organic materials. So for example, I found some old pomegranates on my dad's farm in the Karoo, and they'd been eaten out, kind of like pecked out by birds. And so I collected all these old pomegranates and I embroidered into them. So I closed them back up again with rope and embroidery. So that's an example. But then in my last piece, I used perspex, for example. So that's installation art. It's, it's all different kind of things. But then I also do drawing and painting as well. And then the third thing that I'm also, so I always look at my practice as having three legs. There's the installation leg, there's the drawing and painting, and then there's the part that's interested in beautiful things. So I can't walk past a beautiful piece of fabric without wanting to touch it, or crockery or things like that. So I am starting to explore now a little bit more with, taking my art onto, like, I'm in the midst of a fabric collaboration, for example. So I don't want to call it homeware, but objects, functional objects. That's the third bit. And that might be a bit too much for a single person running the whole operation. I think I'm getting to the point now where one of these days I'm going to have to start calling in a bit of additional help. But that's kind of a broad overview of what I do.
Okay. I wanted to what you said now about the pomegranates, I wanted to ask you specifically about that, because I think that's a very interesting. I think most people will walk past those old sort of hollowed out pomegranates and maybe not even see it. And it's very interesting to me that you actually went to go pick up a few and then sort of covered them in this sort of weaving rope to cover the holes and almost making them whole again, and through that process making them into something a lot sort of more beautiful than what they were just lying outside in the weather and whatnot. And that's for me, that sort of is what I can see from the outside. Obviously, what I can see on your Instagram and Facebook and all of that. That is sort of I think a good description of who and what you are. Is you take something that's unseen by most people and sort of turn it into something very interesting and very beautiful.
I think that what you're saying now, I mean, that comes back to my whole belief around what is art and what does it mean to create art, because and I think that's why I'm not just drawing or an artist who draws or paints, because I see potential in everything, sometimes to my own detriment, because I feel like I've got at any given moment got 30, 40 ideas running around in my head. But I'm always, because it's everywhere. To me, you know, a trip to the Karoo, for example, like driving past, I would look at the. Oh, here's an example. When we go to Neil's parents in Ceres, there's this bit where you drive through the mountains, and you know those big structures put up for electrical cabling or whatever. They look like doorways. And I'm always, when I drive past there, I'm always thinking about doorways and how I could use those existing structures and kind of work into them, turn them into an installation. So whether that means to add curtains or, you know, embroider onto pieces of fabric and ask for permission to hang the bits of fabric or attach it to that. Because then I always think about the experience of that thing or place that you are changing for somebody else. So how that, because now I'm thinking, okay, if I was to turn those, I'm calling it doorways, into an installation artwork, the next time a truck driver goes past, he's driven that road like 1,000 times. The next time he goes past there's going to be this sense of delight that's created, and his experience of that space and that environment is going to be changed or altered in some way. And I love that idea. And that's kind of that's the thing that pulls through with everything. The pomegranates, that happened at an interesting time, because at that time I was thinking a lot about children and whether I wanted to have children or not. And Anil and I, we'd gone to a few doctors, and, you know, I had some without going into too much detail, there were some issues, and one or two doctors told us that, you know, it might not be easy for us to conceive. And and maybe it's a bit too obvious, the idea of, you know, looking at these fruit, but what I saw at that time was like, you know, I had all these beautiful ones, fruitful fruit were on these trees, but they were empty inside. And I know that's a bit, I mean, it's too obvious. It's almost to the point where it feels it's a bit cheesy, but that's honestly kind of just where my head went at that time.
Yeah.
You know, it's a couple of years ago, and the thought that came was, let me make these whole. And so I've got about 70 at the moment, and now obviously like the meaning has completely changed. Yeah, I've got 70 of the pomegranates, and I've been getting my dad to harvest more in the Karoo because I'm not sure what they will become. So I said to my dad, because he's got a lot of pomegranate trees, I said to him, don't spray the trees. I want the birds to be doing exactly what they did, a couple of years ago. I want them to eat out the fruits that I've got more to work with. Yes, that's just that's the type of requests that my dad gets. Don't look after your fruit. Let them kind of die out. I lost my train of thought a little bit. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Yeah, I'm not sure. I've actually been speaking to my mentor about them a lot because I kind of feel I don't quite know where they fit in anymore. I just know that they are beautiful to look at the moment. They're woven into and they all have different shapes. And so we've been discussing, like what could they become? So maybe I would cast them in bronze or I'm not sure. Sometimes like I just like an idea just pops up and I just really want to do something as well. Not everything has a meaning. Sometimes it's really cheesy, like with the pomegranate. Sometimes it has no meaning, and sometimes there's a really like beautiful something that comes out of a project. Sometimes I just want to make beautiful things.
Is there a reason why you only use that white? Is it rope? Do you call it rope?
It's rope. Rope, yes.
Is there a reason why it's only white? Or the ones I've seen are just plain, it's just white. Or have you used other colors?
No, I haven't. In fact, I haven't even thought about using other colors. That's interesting to think about. But no, I think when I started that project, we were on the farm. The farm is 50 kilometers from the closest town. The town has a very limited, I think there's 1 or 2 stores. So there was rope on the farm. So it's just what I had to use with. I was kind of rummaging around.
There's not a Hobby Lobby around the corner.
There's not a Hobby Lobby. In fact, I think the closest one is on the West Coast, which is a couple of hours away. So, and that poses an interesting challenge, right? Is to use the materials that you have available to you. So, in the Karoo, I think it forces you to return to the idea, to sit with the idea. What's the idea? How can you portray the idea in a way that it's beautiful with what you've got? Sometimes it's a bit of decision fatigue in Cape Town because there's just so much to draw from. You can just drive to the art shop and get whatever you need, or all the materials are here. Whereas in the Karoo, you have to take a little bit more time to think.
There's another video that I saw that you put on where you were smashing one of these pomegranates with a hammer. What was the train of thought behind that?
Okay, so I started with them, I'm saying 6 years ago. It might even be more. I think it's 7 or 8 years ago. And I told you what the meaning was at the time, but that's changed and it's not the truth anymore. So it's become something different, and it's a projects, and especially installation projects, to me, they become, if I don't see them realized, they become these things at the back of my head, almost that haunts me a little bit. They keep it's like something that keeps knocking at the door. So I feel like I absolutely, for my own sanity, have to realize my ideas. I have to see them take shape. And with the pomegranates, it's maybe the most frustrating project that I've got at the moment. Firstly, because I've been working on it for so long. And secondly, I don't know what it means anymore. And I don't know what I want. I don't know what the final the final look is, for lack of a better word. I don't know what the final look is. So when I get that stuck with a project, I've got a list up in my studio. It says light, text, stories, animals, perspective, sound, scale up, scale down, glass, perspex. So it's a list of different ideas or materials. So what I would do is I would say, for example, so the first word is light. If I had to take the pomegranate and reimagine it as a light, what would that look like? Or to incorporate light into the artwork. And then I would kind of play around and brainstorm with it, and then, okay, chuck out light. I've got nothing for light. And then the next one is text. Okay, so how would I incorporate text? So it's about reimagining the project, not having tunnel vision. So the idea of smashing the pomegranate was, okay, if I've woven into it, but I don't want to get precious and, think that it can only exist in that specific form or shape. So what if I smash it? What does it look like? Okay, now I've got all these broken bits. Maybe I put them together again, but with smaller pieces, or maybe I take out the bit of weaving that I've done and just use the weaving that's coming from the fruit. So the smashing of the pomegranate is about reimagining what else it could be, because I'm feeling stuck within that project.
I think that's what makes what you do so interesting, and I guess fun in a sense, because there are no rules. You can basically do whatever the fuck you want to do, and if it turns into something, it turns into something, and if it doesn't turn into something, you can just use it later on and turn it into something. There's a shitload of possibilities for everything.
Absolutely, yes. That's a blessing and a curse. I mean, I'm playing for a living, right? But
Yeah.
There's that, which is fantastic and amazing, but then there's also this side that I need to make a living and pay bills, and installation art is not cheap. It's not cheap to make. It's labor intensive. I mean, I'm saying, it's this. It doesn't have to be, but in some or other form, like my installation artworks tend to be the more expensive projects to realize, whether that be in terms of financial cost, or a time investment. Like as I was saying, the pomegranates, I've been working on them for the last 8 years. Like that's a serious time commitment, and to still be in a place where I'm not sure what they are, what they mean, that's a little bit frustrating, because now I've got like this 8 years of investment into this project of my time. So yes, it's wonderful to play around, but it's a balance.
It's interesting that you say that, because I spoke to a mutual friend of ours, Arend. What's it? Arend.
Yes.
Excuse me, Arend Low. And Arend also said that there's if he works on something for too long, he tends to get finicky about it and change. He keeps on wanting to change stuff, and where he needs to at one point say, okay, I'm done now. I'm going to take this piece off the easel and put it somewhere else and stop working on it. And I think that might be sort of what you're talking about, is you have to, with this, you don't have a plan yet, or like a definite set plan. And it's kind of the same thing. I want to ask you about the drawings and stuff that you do, like that piece that's behind you. Because it's a very interesting style that you have, and I'm not understand that I know basically nothing about it. I'm very uncultured when it comes to art and all of that. I know that this is what I like, but I can't describe what I like. I see something and I'll say, okay, I like that, and so I've got no sense of what goes on in the art world. So if you can just tell me sort of what your style is with these specific drawings, like the one that's behind you, what would you call that style of art?
I've never thought about that. I've never, I mean, I'm rummaging through all the files in my mind, kind of, art history terms, trying to find a fit. But I don't know.
What do you normally use? Because I know you use a lot of watercolors.
Yes,
and
I think just to back up a little bit, because I think that's an interesting, like, you're putting me on the spot a bit, but it's important for me to, work through these things. I think definitely I would say with like figurative, expressive, a bit grotesque. Yeah, I mean, I work very quickly. That is a skill that I have been trying to master for the last couple of years, because in school, and even, I mean, when I was studying fine arts, we are taught that to draw something very realistically and accurately, that is, well, I mean, that's a good benchmark. It's a good way to kind of define what is good or bad in the traditional sense of the word. But I knew from pretty early on that that was not what I wanted to do, but I had to, because that was the requirement when I was studying and also doing art at school. And it's actually interesting because I went through one of my old primary school, diaries a couple of weeks ago, and I think I must have been 9 or 10, I found a picture of a Matisse painting of a figure. And at 9 or 10, I had no idea who Matisse was. I mean, everybody, he's all the rage at the moment, and you see a lot of Matisse influence in people's work. But that was quite a precious moment for me, because I was like, okay, well, like, this has actually been coming a long way. So I went through all of that, trained in kind of more traditional drawing techniques, and I'm very comfortable with those, and I'm very comfortable teaching them. But as soon as more freedom was possible, I started experimenting with loosening up, and it took me a long time. I mean, I still have the first painting that I ever made in a style that was different from my usually very realistic drawings and paintings. I still have that painting. It's interesting to kind of reflect back. But yes, I mean, I draw very fast and quick ink lines. I can do a figure in like, 2-3 minutes. Can have like a figure or a person. So when I go to live drawing classes, I choose them very selectively, because in live drawing classes, people always want long studies. They want to sit and they want to study the figure. And I want the opposite of that. I want very dynamic, very quick poses, change every 2 minutes, very loud music in my ears, not the kind of traditional, quiet, calm, flowy fabric models set up on couches. No, I want like nice and quick and high energy environment. And I actually, just to go off on a side tangent for a bit, I worked with the same model in Bangkok for 6 years. And he just gets me. He just 100% gets me. He's an ex-professional ballet dancer who then lived in Japan for, I think it was 29 years. He's from Australia. He speaks fluent Japanese. And he was trained in this very weird style of dancing called Buto, and it's a Japanese style of dancing. And it's all these very weird, grotesque, slow-paced. I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe it very well.
That's the one with a very intricate. It's like very intricate movements, and the people almost contort in a way.
Yes, it's very contorted. Yes, but also very grotesque with the way that they hold their hands and their fingers and their feet. And so he was trained in that in Buto dancing, and I love drawing hands and feet. And I mean, we worked together in Bangkok for 6 years, and he would come into the studio, and we would just draw. I would just draw for hours, and he would just have, hit me with these amazing poses, like pose after pose after pose. And it's difficult to find, because finding a live model that gets the way that you want to work, it's a bit like finding a life partner. There's not a lot of them. And especially in live drawing classes, I mean, this just annoys me to my very core, is you'll have, and it's often, maybe because it tends to be more females in a live drawing class, that they want to try and look sexy or, like very like kind of classy or stylish. And I'm like, fuck no, like give me upside down, like ass in the air types of poses. Like, don't try and look cute or sexy. Like, just give it to me,
Yeah.
So I'm still looking. I haven't found my match back home yet, but also I haven't been looking much. Because of course with COVID, one of the things what happens was, like, I wasn't able to have a model come over or go to live drawing events. And then I started relying a bit on, finding images online, which is never ideal. But again, it's a bit of an investment with a live model. You have to like set it up. Obviously like you pay the model. So again, like that's another thing that can get a little bit pricey. So I don't know if I got a bit lazy over the last few months, but I have definitely been relying on, or not been relying on, live models as much. I think once my new studio is set up, then I'll get on that.
I think you might have to give Neil some of that Bhupen's, what was it, Bhupen's cola.
Bhupen's cola.
Give him a pellet of that Bhupen's cola and let him sit outside on the lawn in funny poses.
So, Philip, you're joking, but Neil has modeled for me a lot. So, I mean, if I'm not gonna. What happens in the studio stays in the studio. But Neil. So what often happens is I'll see a pose that I love, and then I'll get Neil to set up in that pose, and then I'll use Neil as the model. And I mean, he's always keen. I mean, I've just got the best husband, because the amount of shit that he puts up me, from posing nude, but no, there are a couple of drawings in the collection that's Neil's ass.
Okay, well, we'll go take a look, just to give everyone an idea of who Neil is. Neil is the first episode on the Kakpraat Chronicles. Neil Neetling, he's the guy behind Benyan and Katua. So if you guys are, for anyone listening to this, please go listen to the first one as well. Neil's episode is, I think, also very, very interesting. Is there something wrong with your tea there?
Yes, it's finished, but it's coffee. But I definitely shouldn't have any more.
I want to ask you something. If you can maybe just quickly move your head slightly to one side so people who are watching can see what is behind you. You've got a lot of these, this sort of style, people sitting with the legs crossed and with the hands and the feet. But I want to ask you, you very I won't say never, but you seldomly draw faces. Is there a reason for that?
I think actually somebody asked me this exact question a couple of days ago, and I think having gone through traditional art training, there's a lot of emphasis put on the face. And I think once you've got the face, like if you're looking at a painting and you've got a figure the same way that I would have a figure in a painting, but the face is there, like your eye tends to go to the face immediately, and then you come and you attach kind of your own experiences and ideas onto that person, or you create a persona in your mind. And I just felt that there's so many other interesting things about a person or a body or a shape other than the face. And if I draw the face, then you tend to go to the face. Your eye immediately goes to the face. But if I leave that out, and like hands and feet, I just find way more interesting in terms of shape and what you can express with the shape of a hand or a foot. And then also the more indulgent bit, like the fabric. I just love color and print, and I feel for the shape of the figure and the colors and the prints and things to kind of get their day in the sun. Like the face needs to not be there. There are enough portrait painters out there, so yeah. I mean, I do try and keep that skill. I do work on that skill as well. So in my sketchbooks, I will do a lot of faces and portraits, or like a zoom of a drawing of a nose or a mouth or whatever, because I don't want to lose the ability to do that. But for the purpose of my work, I want to focus on something else.
Now, for people who are just listening, what we're talking about is the painting or the drawing or the piece of art behind you is a person sitting on a chair with his legs crossed, and he's got this nice green stripy suit on, the fancy pants shirt, and what I find interesting about most of these drawings of yours are I tend to overthink a lot of stuff. When I look at something like that, I look at it like, when you're in school, I don't know if your teachers were the same, but if you go through poems in like an Afrikaans class, then they'll go, okay, this poem is fucking Piet sits somewhere and Piet's doing this and blah, 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 blah. And then they always go, yeah, but what is the, he says at one stage, Piet's suit is green, and there's all of this meaning behind this green suit. And then I always sat there going, what if he just fucking made it green? Why does everything have to have a meaning behind it? And I always wonder, looking at like stuff like your stuff, which is, I mean, it's definitely a very different style than sort of like the norm. It's a rough type of drawing, and as you say, it's quick, and it's vibrant colors and stuff. But what I find interesting about it, I made a bloody note of specifically what I wanted to ask, and now I can't fucking find it. But there's the people are always sitting in such a way that their legs look very long, or their arms look very long, or there's always, it's always sort of like from a weird perspective. And I sat looking at this one specific thing of a woman that you had on, I can't remember it. Like I said, I made a note and I can't bloody find this note. But she was sitting, and the way that you took the picture, she was sitting with her hands. I think it was something about the hands, specifically about the hands, with the story of your dad asking you if you've got 10 thumbs or something. But the picture was interesting because the way that you took the picture, it was obviously taken from a lower perspective, and it made her look as if her arms were bloody 2 meters long,
Mm-hmm.
with the hands spread out on the knees. And there's a lot of your sketches and drawings and stuff where people are sitting on a chair and they've got these long legs. Or is it? It just, that was an interesting sort of thing that I picked up, and I don't know if you deliberately do that, or is it just the way you do it?
It comes back to having worked with a buto dancer for so long and being interested in grotesque and those kind of contorted poses where things are a little bit over exaggerated, and you can play around with. So for example, if I drew a model and gave the model like really small hands and tiny feet, and she's sitting, kind of in a certain way, you can portray her to look almost like shy and very soft and feminine. And I'm not really interested in that. I feel like I almost wanted to be a bit more in your face. I'm trying to find the right words, but it definitely comes back to my experience with working with the buto dancer and assigning. I don't want to say power or fragility. Like, as the artist, you get to play with the portrayal of this person and the feeling of this person, so you can make it a little bit more like in your space or in your face. You can show somebody who looks like they've got a bit more confidence, or you can make them look, neither female nor male. Like you can play with all these kind of subtle things, like, giving and taking away power, or masculinity or femininity. And I'm interested in that. So very often, I think I draw my figures in a way so that they could be either or. So you could either have kind of an effeminate man, or you could have a very, what would be the right word? I don't know what the opposite, like, I'm trying to think of like the right word where, for a female that's a bit more, she's got a bit more, she's like more like a masculine female type of person. So yeah, I'm interested in that, like those kind of very subtle ways in which you can show or take away. I think sometimes as well in the studio as well, like I've just always been interested in that idea of, I'm the artist, and then this model comes in and he's this big strong man, but I'm the artist and I get to decide how masculine or how feminine he appears on the paper or on the canvas, it makes me the dominant personality in the room, or so it's those kind of subtle things, what a big kind of bulky hand means or says about that person versus a kind of small feminine little hand. The subtleties of being.
If I can give you a bit of insight into my autistic brain. So when I saw these, when I went through, like I said, I did a bit of digging. I really enjoy sort of going through people's Instagram before I do episodes like these. And there was, like I said, there's one specific picture that I looked at, and my brain immediately went, I wonder if it is, because obviously I know Neil quite well, so I can see a lot of Neil in a lot of these sketches of yours. Mm-hmm. And so my brain immediately went, Neil is this tall person, and you are a lot less tall than Neil. So I immediately just went, I wonder if it's just because you're on a lower plane that you maybe look at things a bit differently. and that's why the legs are so long, or so. That's just the way my brain went. Is because you're a shorter person,
I
it
think
might
that's
just
a
be a
very
different
interesting
perspective.
observation. Yeah, or maybe like that's an inner, an inner longing of mine because, excuse me, like strangely enough, I'm attracted to tall men. So yeah, maybe that's just like my subconscious, revealing something on the page. And I think that's a very fair observation, Philip.
No, and that just goes to show how little I know about art. I just immediately went, no, you must just be short. You've just got a different perspective.
I also just to comment on that, what you're saying about not knowing anything about art, but I think that is to be able to experience art or enjoy art. Like a lot of things, like, you need to kind of understand the rules of, golf or rugby, whatever, to kind of, engage in the proper way. But with art, I believe it really is as simple as, or it can be as simple as, I like that. I love that. I love the combination of those colors. I love this, I just, oh my God, I get so just bored out of my mind if I have to start analyzing an artwork because my experience, I'm way more tuned into my immediate reaction. And when you were saying earlier about just, what did you say? You said something like just a fucking green suit. I actually thought, oh my God, that is like that could be my slogan. I just want to paint a fucking green suit. I like that.
I always see these. With a lot of these artworks, you get like a little descriptive piece underneath where it says, "I was thinking about this while I drew it, and this is this," and it's this whole bloody paragraph about what the guy or what the person was thinking about while doing this piece of art. And I always think, like, can't they just write, I felt like drawing this guy.
Yes.
No, there's nothing behind it. It's just I saw this person sitting there. I thought, no, that'll make a gift picture. I'm gonna sketch that.
That's I can only speak to my own experience, but I've tried that approach a couple of times when applying for competitions or exhibitions or whatever, and it does not go down well in my experience. I mean, it might be different when you reach a certain level or, if you become kind of like a Damien Hirst type artist, make it to the top of the line. Maybe then it changes. I don't know. But more often than not, that's exactly what I'm feeling. Like I'm interested, when I pick figures or poses, I can't tell you exactly why I pick the pose that I pick. It's just like it's an immediate reaction of I want to try that one. I want to do that one. It's not necessarily anything more. But then with installation art, it's a little bit different. But then, like I'm just thinking back to what you're saying about the descriptions. What artists think about when they're making this piece. I mean, it doesn't have to be so detached. That idea doesn't have to be detached from just our experience as a human. So, for example, if you think about like when you stand and wash the dishes, your mind wanders, and like things come to you, and maybe it's just the same, but because it's art, we tend to think of it more as like the artist is having this moment of, clarity or wisdom or whatever. But to me, it's just kind of like a thing that drifts in and out, and that I'm thinking of, or I'm not so keen on the high art idea and all that. Yeah.
I honestly feel some of that is very, for lack of a better word, pretentious. I feel like some of that is, excuse me, I don't know. I've like doing Arnie's episode and your episode, sort of looking at stuff beforehand. I sometimes feel like people are trying to put more on something than there really is. But I
Absolutely.
mean, it's open for interpretation. I mean, it's art's not a set thing. It is what you make, and um, it's you can take away from it what you want to take away from it. It doesn't have to be a specific thing.
But Philip, don't you think that is with the same as with most things in life? You know, like we bring all our bullshit and experiences to everything in our daily lives. Like yesterday, for example, Neil and I, we were talking about this kind of very politically charged thing in the news at the moment. And he was giving his opinion, saying like, no, this person definitely did this because that it did. Like, I don't want to go into it too much because that was like a kind of a private an intense conversation.
Yeah.
But I said to him afterwards, what you think and what I think, it really doesn't matter that much. Like in relation to that person or that person's intention. The interesting thing to observe is that we're bringing our own shit onto this situation.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's a lot in art as well. Again, we look at it differently because we think of it as the art world, but I think we do that in our everyday lives anyway. All the time. Like we bring all our own experiences and narratives and we load it onto other people and what we think they think, or I don't know if that makes sense. Sometimes I just
no, definitely
waffle on. And
when you do these sketches, when you do these quick, like you said, this 2, 3, 4 minute sketches of yours, or paintings or whatever you call it, is there something specific that you look for, or is it more of a do you go into a restaurant and you scope through people and you see someone, you sort of, do you look for something specific, or is it more of you just walk into a situation and you see, shit, that would make an interesting piece of something, I'm gonna sketch that? Is it more of a spur of the moment type thing, or do you look specifically for something?
Usually if I'm out and about and I'm kind of looking around, I actually went to a First Thursdays event a couple of weeks ago, and I was just kind of watching my own observations or the way I was observing, and the thing that would draw my attention was interesting outfits, strangely enough. Like if I see an interesting pattern or an interesting like outfit that's been put together, that would draw my eye immediately. But then when I'm looking at a pose to draw, I like to use references from art movements from, sometimes it's the 1800s, 1900s. So I go through the poses or the way, especially with the nudes, let's say like, for example, Renaissance nudes. So I would have a look at the way that they've been set up on a couch, and then I would try and reimagine like how I would draw that pose in a way so that it's interesting to me, where it puts more emphasis on, let's say, the hands or the feet or the shape of the hips, where there's a nice sharp curve. So I like to use existing or look for existing poses, but then see how I can set them up a little bit differently. So sometimes I just change the angle slightly, but when I'm out and about, when I'm sketching on location, it's usually an outfit that catches my attention first. Yeah, or like a weird hairstyle, or I've got a very nice sunglass. I'm like a bit of a sunglass addict. So when I see somebody with an interesting pair of sunglasses, then yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the sunglasses now, because there's a 2-part video that you put on Instagram, that you go through boxes that you packed 3 years prior, and you go through these boxes again. And that's where I got the pomegranate thing, where you took them out and spoke about them. And then there's also you wearing a pair of, I think either your grandmother's, I think it's your grandmother's.
It's my grandmother's gazelle sunglasses. Yes, yeah. She wore them at uni.
Yeah, it's this amazingly sort of expressive type of. It's
They're
just
so cool.
fucking cool looking sunglasses. And I immediately just thought, like, I see myself driving on this long road trip, going just like on an endless, like those road trips that you see on the American movies, where people are just driving straight for 75 hours, and just sort of in a like an old timey car, with my arm out the window and the wind blowing through my non-existent hair, with me driving with these sunglasses on, because they are so freaking cool.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I want to ask you about that, because there's that video. I think I watched that video 3 or 4 times. The stories are very interesting. And I want to ask you first about your grandmother, seeing as we're talking about her sunglasses now. Because you quickly touch on how your grandmother met Pierre Ninaber, and how they met up later in life, and I don't know if you want to. That was a very interesting story for me. If you wanna just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I don't actually know much about that story, other than, so that's not my grandmother, that's my great grandmother.
Oh.
And so she and the writer Pierre Ninaber, they were madly in love when they were in high school, and they were planning to get married, and their parents just absolutely said, absolutely no way. And
do you know why?
No, I asked my grandmother this a couple of weeks ago, months ago. We had this conversation, and I can't remember what she said, but I remember being disappointed in the answer, as if I'm not getting the information. I'm not getting the story that I was hoping to get.
Yeah.
So they were madly in love. Their parents said no, apparently for no good reason. They both went off, got married, and then years later found one another, and then got married, and then spent the last I might be way off, but I'm thinking they got remarried in their 50s, late 50s, and then just spent the next couple of years traveling the world together. And my grandmother, who is a bit of I'm not going to call it a hoarder, I'm going to say collector of sentimental things, gave me a box, and I'm talking about a fucking box of their letters, their love letters. So I've got all of that, and I've had it for years, but I've never, I feel like that's such an emotionally loaded project, and also to kind of, try and place them in order and try and figure out what the chronological order is and piece that puzzle together. I've never made time to take on that project, but it is kind of on my list of things to do, because I think that's going to be there'll be some interesting stories that come from that. And other than that, they both died when I was quite young. I remember Opa, we called him Opa Nin. I remember Opa Nin. I must have been about 5 or or 6 when he died, and I've got a very vivid memory of sitting on his lap, and it was Christmas, and he was very gentle and kind of a soft soul. And same with my great grandmother. But other than that, I don't have much more information, which is a bit of a pity. But yeah, it's a beautiful story.
There's another piece in that video where you go through a box of buttons.
Yes.
Which I find very interesting, because I think it goes back to the whole pomegranate thing where 99.9% of people will just walk past a button and it will mean nothing.
Yeah.
Where you'll go, no, I like that button. And you've got a fucking box, like you said, now, a fucking box full of buttons.
Yes,
and
there's
each with its own story and picture and sort of intricate styles and stuff. It's very interesting.
So the buttons, there's 3,600 to be exact.
Bloody
and
hell.
That was part of my graduate exhibition at Ruth Cross. And my, gosh, Philip, I mean, I don't know where you're getting all this stuff. Like, I can't remember all the things you're referring to. This is very interesting. But, so you're making me really stretch my mind. That was part of my graduate exhibition. The theme of my dissertation was, it was called Bevolkte Afrikaners, if I remember correctly. And it was about the kitsch within the Afrikaner subculture. And so the theme of the exhibition, everything had to do with like nostalgia, but then had this undertone of kitsch, and all the buttons were gold and plastic. I think they were all gold, if I remember correctly. And then I put photos, black and white photos. I would cut them and I would kind of very carefully place them inside the button.
Okay, so yeah, we had a bit of technical difficulties there, but you were talking about the buttons while you're putting, I think you said while you're putting I think you said almost decoupaging or whatever the word was that you used to put these photos on the buttons. I don't know if you can remember your story there. Yeah,
so no, I was just saying that I decided not to draw the inside of the button, so I just decided to use the actual photos, and just playing with the idea of memory and nostalgia, and the things that we keep that we choose to preserve, and all the stuff that comes with that. I don't actually remember in much more detail, but what I do remember about that button project is I started off with, let's say, 100 buttons, and then how it works in your final year of studying fine arts, every Friday you've got a crit with your with all the other final year students, and then the lecturers as well. And I would say, okay, here I've got 100, and my Ilham, who was the head of fine art, she would say, no, I think you need to double it. I'd go 200 buttons, and she'd be like, yeah, double it. And then I'd come in like the next Friday, and I'd be like, okay, I've got 200 buttons, and she's like, no, I think it needs to be like 1,000. I'd be like, 1,000. So actually, the credit goes to her for getting me up to 3,600, where I think at that point I said, listen, yeah, this is enough. But the effect, I still have them. They haven't been up in a couple of years, but it's quite a nice installation. Like it's something just pretty to
Where
look
did
at.
you get all these buttons?
Oh fuck! Like everywhere. I mean, I would go rummaging in secondhand shops, in hospice shops. We'd go to we'd make a trip to my dad in the Karoo, and then on the way, like I remember some of the buttons came from a shop in Vryseburg, some came from a shop in Sutherland. I found quite a lot in Woodstock. Just all over. I would buy like 5 here, 10 there, score like a nice box full at some old fabric shop hidden away at the back. And actually that reminds me of when I must have been, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, around there. And I grew up in Paarl. The Articles art shop was very close to my mom's house. And in the afternoons after school, my mom would let me walk up to the art shop. And then she didn't give me any money to buy anything, but I always just wanted to go and have a look at all the art supplies and materials. And I will never forget the original owner of Articles in Paarl. His name was Nick, and he was a lovely, lovely guy. And he would let me, so they had a selection of beads in the art shop, but the beads were all open. So they were kind of like in bowls or like a display cabinet or whatever, but they were all open. So Nick would let me pick up the beads that people had dropped on the floor that had kind of like rolled away. He would let me pick up those beads, and then I was allowed to keep them. So I would go up to Articles art shop in the afternoons after school, like literally crawl around on the floor of the shop, and then go home with like a small little handful or whatever. And I mean, those were my jewels. It was such a nice way to spend my time. And that, it reminds me a bit of looking for buttons. Like it feels like there's a bit of a relationship or like a thread between those two experiences.
So my mind immediately again went, when I saw all of these buttons, my mind immediately just went like, if you buy like a suit or a shirt or something, there's that little plastic bag on the inside with the spare buttons in it. So if you lose a button, yes. So I immediately just went like, I wonder if you walked through like a Edgar's or something and just nicked off all of those spare little buttons.
No, because those buttons were so kitsch and so extravagant. Like they wouldn't have been on suits in Edgar's, I promise you. Like those are like old golden kitsch buttons from like the 80s. They really weren't that easy to find. It took me a while. Yeah.
I mean this with the utmost respect, but this wonderfully weird person that you are, were you always this sort of type of person? Did like your story now with the beads, I mean, this was when you were in school. I mean, were you always more prone to go towards an arty type of lifestyle?
Yes, but and I've had countless debates with my mom and family and just other people about this topic. But I believe more in 10,000 hours than I do in natural talent. And I mean, my mom always says, but what about the athletes and but I do believe like their surroundings and, genetic makeup and everything for me is part of like the process. But just the idea of pure natural talent, I'm not so keen on that. So I'll tell you how it came about. And I think all of these experiences helped kind of push me in that direction. There's a couple of memories. So, but first, let me tell you how the art thing came about. When I was 6, my sister was almost 1 year old. My parents they got a divorce, and it was not an easy divorce, and it was definitely not easy on me as a 6-year-old who understood, I think, way more than what they realized at the time. And so going to a form of art therapy was, I think, my parents' way of getting me to deal with the divorce. So I was actually put in a type of art therapy as part of processing what was going on at home. And then from there, my mom put me into extracurricular art. So it wasn't just like the, drawing and sticking and pasting that we did at school. I started going from a very young age to extra art classes. And then couple that with my dad's mom, who is just a very interesting, weird granny. I mean, I'm just, I'm very thankful. And actually, all of the family on that side, they're very interesting, artistic characters. And, but my granny, one of my first memories, so my granny had a porcelain doll studio. She made porcelain dolls. And
that's my biggest fear.
I know, it's creepy.
Listen, that is. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've tried to watch. My wife loves like scary movie type things.
Yes,
and I can watch anything and everything except when it comes to dolls.
Mm-hmm.
I get freaked the fuck out by anything like with a doll in it, and I just if it's what's there's that specific range of movies with that doll in it.
Are you thinking about Chucky? Man. Not Chucky.
No, it's not Chucky. No, it's not Chucky. It's this demented fucking doll. It's just like a little porcelain doll sitting there with a name like bloody. I don't know if it's man. I almost want to say Amanda, but it's not Amanda. It's
I'm not. But
it's just this doll. And we tried to watch a movie, and we got, I think, maybe 20 minutes into that movie, and this doll was sitting there, and the guy was doing something, and the doll just went, and I went, no, I'm out. I'm done. I cannot watch it anymore. I cannot deal with dolls. That's the biggest fear that I have in my life. I will not sleep for a week if I have to watch something like that. So meeting that person, I'm very sorry, but I'm not going into. I don't do dolls.
This will be your personal hell. Personal hell for you, Philip, because it was shelves with like all the doll eyes and all the doll heads and all the. I mean, I won't say too much about porcelain dolls, just in case my grandmother does listen. But she was an excessive smoker. I mean, I remember like Rothman's Roy or like, which probably it wasn't, but I mean, she just lit up. It was just the one after the other one. So I was never allowed in her studio. But she would bring clay and sheets of paper and crayons and things, and she would put it on the step by the entrance to her studio. And I would sit on the steps, drawing, making little ducks and things with clay. And my granny would be inside, like just smoking and porcelain dolling. Like, so she was, I mean, she was a character. And I think because, and my dad's cousin, who was a painter, I did my first oil painting with her when I was 11, and my dad still has that painting up in the house. All these kind of experiences and being exposed to these interesting people that were just a little bit different and outside of the box. I remember thinking like I want to be like that. Like, I want to be an artist. I want to draw. I want to paint. I want to kind of, just do my own thing. actually the same granny gave me a Buddha when I was about 14 or 15, and she said, hide this from your parents, but this is for you. And she gave me this Buddha statue. And I think I still have it somewhere, like boxed up. Like now I'd actually really love to have it out somewhere. But yeah, so she was different. I remember oh my gosh, I hope my mom's not hearing this, but she told my sister, when my sister was probably like 16, she said, if you ever get pregnant, don't go to your parents, come to Granny. Granny will sort you out. Like, if you ever fall pregnant by accident, I've got you. She was just very alternative and quirky. And
well
so
done.
I think spending time with her was one of these things that kind of contributed to my makeup. But I mean, also like, my mom, who's very sporty and still has a six-pack at like 63 and climbs mountains and abseils and does all these crazy stuff. She's also got a very keen artistic eye, and she always encouraged it. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, other than these little snippets of things and, remembering like Linky, my dad's cousin who painted, or, these memories of my grandmother, and being kind of in awe of what I saw as different at the time. Like I was interested in that. I was attracted to that.
Have you ever thought throughout your whole art history type lifestyle, was there ever a time where you went
art history type lifestyle? I like that
too. What was there? Sorry, I don't, like I said, I don't have the words to fill in for arty type stuff. I don't know what you call.
Fresh. I'm really enjoying it, Philip. You keep throwing the just want to paint a fucking green suit liners. Like they're probably going to show up in paintings.
That's great. Have you ever thought of just sort of when? How can I ask this now? If you come to a thing like if you're struggling with something, you're not sure how you want to go forward with your pomegranates, for let's say, have you ever gotten to a point where you go, man, fuck this whole art thing, I'm gonna become a chartered accountant or a lawyer, or go do that. I'm done with art now. Has that thought ever gone past your mind, or are you set on the lifestyle of an artist?
I'd be lying if I said. I mean, I've got quite I think at times a very turbulent relationship with myself, in terms of that. But for example, when I get a rejection on an application, let's say, and I mean, you have to be hard as fuck, because in this industry you get a lot. It's a bit like auditioning for a movie. Every time something like that happens, I'm forced to ask myself, is this all worth it? Is this really what I want? And the fact that I feel every time I come out kicking harder. So when somebody tells me no, my first reaction is like a big one of like, fuck this and fuck everyone and fuck that person and tears and snot and Neil, like, what's going on? I need a break from all this shit. And then 24 hours later, it's like, fuck this. This is what I want to do. I'll show you. I'm going to come back kicking even harder. So that tends to be the way that works. I did make I did try something different once or maybe twice. And it was an absolute disaster in terms of what my mindset became, or what my mental landscape became. So my favorite book is The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and I've read it a lot of times. And she coined this term, objectivism, where and I'm going to butcher this, but in its most basic form, she says that in order to be the best for the people around you, you need to be really selfish about who it is that you want to be, and be really true to yourself, almost to a point where it could be detrimental to others, but it shouldn't be to yourself. Because once you become that, that's when you are the best version of yourself, and only as the best version of yourself can you best serve your community, and not in a traditional way of serving, but but by selfishly being yourself. And I saw that, because the times when I thought, fuck this, I'm going to try something else, I became a miserable bitch to everybody around me, because I was so unfulfilled and so unhappy. And the thing is, with art and these projects and these installations that are always kind of circling around in my head, they don't go away when you make that decision. I don't stop seeing like the potential in projects, or what things could be, just because I've decided I don't want to be an artist anymore. They're still there, and they're still kind of mulling around in the back of my head, and they're like voices, and they shout louder, and it becomes almost worse. When I made the decision 4 years ago to jump into this full time, the decision was, I'm gonna do this or die trying.
Okay.
And yeah.
I think it's actually you explained that amazingly, because I'll pull you back a bit to one of your first Instagram posts. Was a picture of you sitting somewhere. I can't remember where, but you had a caption underneath the picture saying, "Making art is a compulsion. I make art because I have to. I cannot exist without it." And that was a very sort of, it's an amazing description of what you do, because you put it in terms of, it's not, you don't do it. It is who you are. It's not something you do. It is a part of you. It's what makes you you. And I think there's not a there's not a lot of people today that can do what they want to do, and sort of make a living out of it. And I think it's nice to sort of walk the path that you are on, where you're going for it full speed, and it's not always easy, but you're doing it because it is who you are. It's not necessarily something you chose, but it's because it's part of you. It is who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not kidding when I say I can drive from here to the store, and I could see something on the side of the road, and like it just triggers something. I was sitting in a coffee shop a couple of weeks ago, and I actually made a daily drawing about this, but there were two magazines. So it was a House and Leisure at the bottom, and then a Vogue at the top, and then the House and Leisure had like a shade of light blue, and then on top the letters Vogue was written in neon green, and I saw that combination of light blue and neon green, and I thought, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Like I have to incorporate that into a painting somewhere. And sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming, and it feels like a lot, because I feel at any given moment I've got so many projects going on, and I'm always trying to set these rules and boundaries for myself. So I said, there are 10 installation projects, which I have to make them happen. And I'm not sure how yet. And but I have to make them happen. So I've got this list, and I have to find a way to tick these things off my list, because I don't know, it's a funny thing to explain as well. Like, it's almost like, and it's not for anybody else. It's not to, I mean, I love creating a sense of delight. Like I was talking about, like driving on the road to Ceres, and, the doorways, and like the image of somebody driving there and going, oh, wow, like, what is this? Like, that's lovely. But at the end of the day, it is a compulsion, and the compulsion builds if I don't see them realized. It's like my little babies. Like, I have to kind of find a way to make them happen, and it's hard. I mean, like, the last project that I applied for was shortlisted, and then it didn't win. And so now I'm thinking, so I went through all the emotions, like I was just saying, where first I was really emotional and upset, and then the next thing is like, fuck this, I'm just going to make it happen anyway. But the costing on that project to see it happen, it's going to be around 400,000 rand. So, ooh. Yeah. So now, and speaking to my mentor about that as well, that's not a lot of money for installation art. I mean, the scale and the cost and like the investment of making installation art, it can be a lot. But then I'm like kind of forced to ask myself, do I believe in this enough to go for it and to try and make this happen and to try and find a way? And the answer is yes, which means, but then I have to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
So it's like a constant, like there's this constant push and pull as well, like it's like a constant mental, like a game of like conquering my inner bitch and like asking myself, like, is this really what I want? Actually, yes. Yeah, I refer to her as my inner bitch. Like, I have ways to deal with her. She's the moaning she's the moaning version, the one who wants to give up and doesn't want to keep going. And actually, I think when the voice that conquers the inner bitch has got a Scottish accent, because my mentor in Bangkok,
okay,
who I worked for a couple of years, Elsie Evans, she's an amazing Scottish artist. When I would get to complaining about stuff, she would just always say to me, shut the fuck up and get on with it, in a really thick Scottish accent. So I've definitely got her voice in the back of my head, when I get like that, just go, shut the fuck up, get on with it. Yeah.
That's great. Elzahn, are we still good for time? Have you, because I've got a few more questions, but I don't want to keep you if you have to be somewhere.
No, we can go, Philip. Let's ask your questions.
I want to ask you, with all of your travels, I know you and Neil sort of went out and got quite a bit of stamps on your passport over the last few years. How do you think has your traveling changed your art? Has it had an impact in your perspective and all of that?
I mean, my immediate answer is yes. I'm not, in terms of perspective, yes, because it feeds into my perspective on life, and my perspective on life feeds into the art, and the art feeds it, it's like it's definitely a circle. But I mean, a lot of the very big installation projects that I've got written down, or either that I'm trying to realize, they were projects that were born out of, specific experiences abroad, or, I can give you some examples. So, I don't know dates. That's Neil's department. But a couple of years ago, Neil and I, we decided that we wanted to walk across Sri Lanka, and we didn't plan the trip or book a tour guide or looked at maps in advance. Nothing. We flew into Colombo, and then we the next day got a train out of the city, and we just got off at a random train station, and we started walking. And we walked through areas of Sri Lanka where nobody has ever been. And, I'm talking about tourists. We just went into these very, very, very remote areas. And what I thought was interesting is we only got 3 questions. So the locals, their English is pretty good. So 3 questions is what we got. It was, and every time somebody would ask the question, I would make a note of it. So then I actually counted the amount that each question was asked. But the one was, where are you from? Where are you going? Why are you walking? Okay. And I thought that was so interesting, because I thought, well, isn't that the questions that we have to answer for ourselves in life? Like, where do you come from? Where are you going? And why are you doing this thing that you have chosen to, dedicate your time to? And so those 3 sentences are part of a project that I'm working on, but it's all based around those 3 questions in Sri Lanka. Another example is, and this is a project that this is just something that I have to make happen somehow or another. But so we lived in Bangkok for 6 years, and from the moment we arrived in Bangkok, one of the first things that I noted, and something that tourists always comment on when they get to Bangkok, are the wires, like the bundles of wires in the streets, like the telephone wires or the electrical cables or whatever. It's just, you can't explain it to somebody. It's like this is a bondel gekookte gare. I don't know how else to say it. It's just like a massive knotted mess.
Like a crow's nest. It's just everywhere.
Cables, yes. And so I thought, and then I did a residency with a gallery in Bangkok. And my idea was to buy up from scrapyards. So I bought up like kilograms and kilogram bags of these old wires. And I thought, like, their aesthetic has, it's so part of the story of Bangkok, like the aesthetic story of Bangkok, like all these knotted wires, but how can I use them and reimagine them in a way so that they have a more positive connotation? So they're still part of the visual narrative of Bangkok, but in a more positive way. So in my residency, I'd taken portraits of Thai people, and then with these cables, I did these, I don't know if you'd call them weavings, but did these massive, like 4, 5, 6 meter by 6 meter portraits of Thai people, and then found a building, and these massive portraits were going to go onto the side of the building, and these wire portraits, and then COVID hit. So, and then of course we shortly after, like a year or so after that, after being in lockdown for a year, we came back to South Africa, and I had to leave all the work there, and so that was incredibly disappointing. But that project was 100% informed by Bangkok. That's a Bangkok art project. My Sri Lanka project, that is born, so it's got a universal story about it, but it's born from that place, from that experience. And it's the same. I think I can pull up 1 or 2 ideas from that I can pin back to a specific country or experience of a country. for each project?
It's always interesting to see how people change through traveling. Like I said, I mean, I've known Neil most of my life. Our parents were good friends, so I was at Neil's house a lot, and they came over a lot. Blah blah blah. Me and Neil were good friends in school and so on. And it was interesting to see how Neil had changed in terms of sort of like the person that he became through watching him through the travels and speaking to him on the podcast that we did, seeing how he progressed in life from the person that I knew in school to the person that he is now. And it's a massive change, and it's amazing to see how much influence traveling had on him as a person. And I think it's there is the other side of that is to see how people sort of stagnate. Is that a word? That's a word now. How people stagneer. Stagnate. I don't know, but how it's interesting to see the other side of that. How people that just do the same thing and stay in the same little spot for the rest of their life, how they don't change, and then you get people like you and Neil that have seen the world and have traveled and experienced a lot of things, and how that has sort of altered your perception of art and lifestyle and all of that. I fucking love it.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult to be honest, Philip. I think both Neil and I have quite a hard time in South Africa. And for various reasons, but this is a very layered kind of topic, because it's something that's constantly changing as well. You know, like if we never had a baby, then I don't think we'd have ever stopped traveling. We'd probably just kept going, but then suddenly, you know, there's this third person to think about, and you know, where Bangkok was the perfect city for us before, suddenly it just felt like the worst place on earth to be with him and to raise a child. Being here is a bit of an adjustment. It's a bit of an adjustment for us. It was interesting. I said to a friend yesterday, in the last couple of weeks, all the friends that I've made are all expats. None of them are local. And that was, I mean, it wasn't an intentional thing. It's just the way it kind of, that it happened. I think, I mean, you can go into so many different topics. This topic, it kind of goes off into all these interesting little directions, you know, in terms of religion and family and culture and, you know, but I think there's just nothing like it. It changes a lot
in a person.
It really does. Like, there's just nothing like it. I mean, I look at young kids who are leaving school and their parents are forcing them to go into to university to go and study something, whatever, that they're not sure. And I'm just thinking, like, are you really going to spend all that money on your child's education when they are not at all sure that this is really the path that they want to pursue? Send that child off into the world. Give them the opportunity to get a sense of, I mean, just taking responsibility for yourself. I think that's like one of the biggest things I learned being abroad. Like, you don't have the security net of your parents and your culture. And yeah, I'm finding this is a difficult thing for me to answer because there's just so much I could say about it. But yes, it did change us a lot. Like, I think it's so easy to get caught up in this small little bubble.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not giving a good answer to this question, but it's just
No,
layered.
It's
just so incredibly layered, and
we can make a total separate podcast with all your travels. There's so much to say about it, and so much to talk on all of your travels and stuff. But I think let's pull back a bit towards your art. I wanna ask you. We quickly. I think you did mention your daily drawings, which is very interesting because I actually you in the email that you sent me, you said you spoke about Beeple, and I listened to. You probably did listen to the episode that he had on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Most certainly did.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting, and he's been doing these sort of daily drawing type things for a long time. You want to just tell us the story behind your daily drawings?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the idea of doing a drawing a day is not new. Like in various capacities, I've known different artists who do it, and then also seen other artists who do it as well. And that things come from there, and how amazing. I mean, I was talking about Lorraine Lewitz a little bit earlier, and she's just an example of a local artist who did, and I think this is what she did as well. I think I saw an interview with her a couple of years ago where she said she wanted to commit to her practice on a daily basis, but wanted to do it in a way that was manageable for her. And that's how that started. The Scottish artist that I was referring to earlier, Elsie, she used to do what she called a daily painting in oil. So it was, a little square oil painting, and she would just do like a quick daily painting. And then people who's been doing it for 15 years. And so I've known artists who do that and saw, what it did for their practice. I think you are fresh in people's minds. You show this commitment to your practice, but also there's something that pops up on people's social media feed coming from, like, a new creation coming from me every single day. But the way that it started this was in March, and Neil and I, we were driving somewhere, and I was having one of my my inner bitch. She was having a bit of a moment and moaning and complaining about something. And Neil said to me in the car, he said to me, listen, why don't you just make a drawing every day and just post it on social media? Because I can get very hung up on the details. Like, I want things to look perfect, and I want to, I procrastinate to a point where I don't get anything done. And that was a big kind of thing for me to overcome, is to just to let go of that, and Neil said to me, stop thinking about like all the details, and you need to fix this on your website, and you need to write this up in your newsletter, and you need to photograph with like a professional camera. He said, like, just leave all of that, make a drawing and post it every day. And I was like, okay, I've got nothing to lose, and also I just felt a bit directionless, so I started doing that. And honestly, I've said to so many of my artist friends in the last couple of weeks, if you can do anything for your art practice, do a daily drawing, daily painting, commit to that, because it has, there's just so many projects that have come from that. And I think, also to myself, it teaches me like the discipline of that daily commitment to this thing. So I started in March. I haven't skipped a day except for one day where I forgot to post the drawing that I did draw. But yeah, I've been going for a couple of months now, and it's been really amazing. Like, yeah, it's just going so well, and it's opening so many doors, and and also like I have a very love-hate relationship with social media, and not always knowing what I should be posting or what I should be, putting on there. And this gives me a bit of content. But I've been trying to get all my artist friends to do the same, and to commit to that, because it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing to do, because I think it also boils back to what you said earlier about the 10,000 hours. If you, I don't want to say force yourself to do it, but
yeah, I think it's just
it does sort
the
of
commitment.
Yeah.
Yes, and also I got approached to do. And this event, it's not been confirmed yet. It's been pushed back, so I won't say too much. But I was asked to do an event with a very, very big fashion brand, and where they essentially want me to come and do on location live drawing, and that drawing's gonna be a lot to do about like the fabric and the clothes. And I mean, doing that now versus doing that a couple of months ago, there's just no comparison, because my eye and my hand, it's just so in, like I'm so practiced, I'm so in the habit of doing that I'm very comfortable. Like, once again, it's like going into areas that feels a little bit uncomfortable in my practice, or pushing through uncertainty, to work through something, and without really seeing it, or without thinking about that. When I started out, this project helped me to kind of push through areas where I felt a little bit uncertain. Like before, I would be way more self-conscious to sit in a public place. Even though I've been drawing for years, I don't like it when people stand over my shoulder and watch me work. I've never liked it. Whereas now I'm not as bothered. I mean, I still don't like it. It's like a tick on my shoulder, which I can't shake. But but my hand is so practiced, it's almost like muscle memory. It's just, I look at something and then my hand just starts moving, and my eyes they catch the line.
I wanna okay, so this is something that I know absolutely nothing about, but I specifically want to ask you about this, the residency mentorship award that you received. Is very interesting, but it's got a bit of a backstory. If you wanna just tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's called the Legacy Mentorship Award. So
Okay.
yeah, what happened was it's so funny. I'm gonna go way back. I graduated in 2008 from Ruth Prowse, and I finished on a high. I did very well in my final year, and leaving Ruth Prowse, I thought, okay, now I'm going to be an artist, and there's going to be an art world that awaits the arrival of this amazing artist. And I mean, the biggest reality check of my life, because that's not the way it worked out at all. I worked in an art shop in the paper section for a couple of months, that coming off this massive high ended up in an art shop. And I just thought, hell no, like I need to figure this out. I need to figure out how I get to where I want to go. So, and this is something that I recommend highly for other creatives. UCT does a course. It's called business acumen for artists, and it's to teach all the business skills to artists. So I signed up for that course. And in this course, I met a guy named Paul de Toy. And I had no idea who Paul was, but we became friends. And then the more, I would see him at UCT and we'd have our classes together and we'd always chat, and I just thought he was so interesting. And then one day he said, why don't you come along to my studio? I've got a studio in Hope Bay. Come and see my studio. I'm a, practicing full-time artist. Like, come and see how I do it. And I thought, okay, cool. And arrived at his studio. And when I walked in there, I realized, okay, shit, like, this is not like, Paul is actually somebody. And then got to know him better. And I took him on as a bit of a mentor, with or without his permission. And, every opportunity he would, that he was willing to give his time, I would just grab the opportunity to go to his studio. So at that point, and I might be wrong, but he had a studio in New York. We had like a big project in New York, and he had another studio somewhere else. I can't remember where. And then he had a massive studio in Woodstock, and then his home studio in Hope Bay. And oh my gosh, I would just go and visit him when he was working and, have a look at what he's doing, and just loved his work. And I was so stuck and so uncertain, and I had no idea at that point what I wanted to do or the type of art I wanted to make, or, what my art practice career would look like. And I said to him, and I'll never forget this, like, I'm so frustrated. Like, clients are giving me, they're giving me jobs to do. So I'm doing these drawings for people, but I'm just doing commissions all the time. I'm just making the art that other people want. I've got no idea what my own thing is, let's just call it. And he said to me, Elzahn, the biggest mistake you can make is to try and figure out and draw what other people want you to draw and paint. You have to figure out what it is that you want to do. You have to work on developing your style and your voice and your art. Like, fuck everything else, figure out what it is that you want to do. Anyway, and so that has really been kind of like the guiding sentence of my practice over the last couple of years. Nel and I met. Nel actually met Paul as well at his Hope Bay studio, which I'm so grateful for, that he kind of got to meet the person who had such a massive influence on my work. And then we went to Asia and we lived abroad. And then Paul was diagnosed with cancer. And then, unfortunately, he died a couple of years ago. And, I was just like heartbroken because he just had so much to give. He was such a fantastic artist. And so, life went on. And Nel and I always wanted to buy a Paul de Toy sculpture. And he's quite a renowned artist. I don't think he at that time had got the acknowledgement that he deserved in South Africa, but definitely internationally, he'd made it. And so it was about like 2-3 years ago, Nel and I decided to finally buy a Paul de Toy sculpture in the living room. And to me, that was a massive moment, to be able to get one of his sculptures in. And then I reconnected with his wife, Laurette, as well, and we kind of started chatting. And then I'm coming at this story with a very long kind of...
No, go for it, please.
But then at the art fair this year, there was a stall. It was called the Legacy. I think it just said Legacy. I can't actually remember. And there was this woman, Heidi Atman, and she was kind of managing the stall. We'd walked into the stall because there were Paul artworks. So, of course, I went over. I wanted to have a look. And I was kind of eavesdropping on a conversation that Heidi was having with some tourists about this project that she's running. And, her plans for young artists and helping them develop their careers and whatever. And I was eavesdropping 100%. And I could actually see a couple of times Heidi eyeing me a little bit like, who is this random person? Anyway, so we walked away, and then I said to Neil, no, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go introduce myself to this woman. And I mean, I do not do that. I am very reserved to speak in public and to talk about my work. I still find that so difficult to do. But anyway, that day I just had all this, like, it's art fair, and I had all this energy, and I was just like, yeah, go. I was talking to everybody. I mean, I even took a photo with Lady Scorley, who I just love her work. And I literally like walked up to her and I was like, I want a photo with you. And I would never usually do that. And anyway, so I went back and I introduced myself to Heidi, and I said, listen, I couldn't help but overhear, which is a lie, I was eavesdropping. You were talking about this project, like, please give me more information. Tell me what that is about. And we started chatting. And Laurette showed up, Paul's wife, because she was also there. It was Paul's work in Heidi and Laurette. They were showing work together. And I spent a couple of minutes chatting to Heidi, and I said, Heidi, please, can I stick you for a coffee at some point? Like, I really want to pick your brain. I'm just feeling a bit like stuck in my practice. Coffee, breakfast on me, please. Like, can we just do this? And then she was like, yeah, she's got some stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, and she's busy, but we'll try and connect. The week after that, I sent her a WhatsApp, and I was like, Heidi, I am just following up. Like, the art fair is done. Can we please go for that coffee? And then that coffee didn't happen. And I was really kind of bummed because, I just felt like I needed something. Like, I just need somebody to help direct my practice and get some input. And that evening, I got an email from Heidi saying that her and Laurette, they've started this, it's called the Legacy Mentorship Program, where they have been looking at young artists, where they want to pick a young artist and help that artist with their career and offer mentorship. And they had chosen me as the winner of this project based on the conversation I had with Heidi at the art fair. So I didn't enter, for this award or anything. Like, Heidi had a conversation with a rambling idiot at the art fair, and then decided that they were going to award this project to me. And so basically they had one of Paul's artworks cast in bronze, and then sold that piece at the art fair. I think that was the piece at the art fair. Yes. And then from the money from that project is put back into helping a young artist with their career. And so, I mean, that was, it was just such an amazing, like, I felt like, coming back, and I was just after having my baby, and I felt so unsure, and, like, how's it going to work being a full-time artist and being a mom and, having all these things going on. And I needed a little bit of light. I needed to just see a sign, very naively so, but I just needed something at that point to say, like, yes, you need to continue working. And I mean, like, there's no price that I could put on the input and the support that I've gotten from Heidi over the last couple of months. It's been amazing. It's just that, that outside, that objective person that can help steer and direct, and to help you when when are you on the wrong track or on the right track or whatever. So and also, I loved how it came full circle with Paul at the center, like, because really he really, like, I give all credit to him for pushing me to develop into the artist that I want, like, making the art that I want to be making. That was all him.
Yeah.
And now, it coming full circle where that sculpture is the thing that, is giving back to me once again. So I feel like even from beyond the grave, like, I'm still, he's just like a guardian angel.
What is this sculpture?
It's a small little. Philip, you're catching me off guard now. Is it I don't think it's a bronze, but it's a. I can go and grab it if you want to see it. Do you want to see it? Or do you want me to send?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, give me a sec.
Go for it. Okay, so the painting or the drawing that was behind Elzahn just fell over, but just for people that are watching, it's one of these pieces that we spoke of earlier. It's this guy sitting in a chair, legs crossed, this green stripy suit. It just pulls back to what we spoke of earlier. Odd flower there in the back, I think. Sorry, the painting or I don't know what the piece of art basically attacked us. So we while we're waiting for you. Have you got the sculpture there?
I've got it. So I'm just blanking on the name though, which is bad. It's horrible. But so this is the sculpture. So this is one of Paul's pieces. Yeah, and actually the piece at the art fair that was sold, to fund the Legacy Award program is this exact figure, but the big one. So it's about my hip height, and so yeah, it's the same sculpture, which is pretty cool. This isn't bronze; it's something else. I can't remember. And I don't know if you can see, but there it says Paul 7 of 9. I don't know, it's maybe at the top. But anyway, so here's like my this is my studio guardian.
Elzahn, I just really need to go pee quickly because I'm crashing the chair on the side here, trying to keep this in. I'm seriously gonna push my pants. So just give me a second. I'll just stop quickly and then we can continue in a second. So we quickly took I don't want to say push break. Oh well, I said push break. We took a push break.
You just said push break.
Yeah. No, when I said it, I went, oh, fuck.
Philip, people listening. Philip and Elzahn took a piss break.
Okay, so you've got this art exhibition sale thing coming up on the 4th of August.
Yes.
What's going on there? What are you doing? What up?
So, we are, Nel and I can't just answer a question straight. I have to come with it like with an angle. Nel and I we're in the process of buying a house in the countryside. We're going to see if domestic small town living works for us. So we're in the process of buying a house, and very exciting. We're gonna do a garden, get a dog, get a studio, all of those things. But so basically, so this is going to be the 5th time in a year that we are moving. And I just decided, some drawings and things I brought from Bangkok, and I thought like, no, this is the last time. I'm not moving with all this stuff again. So I'm having, I think, the biggest studio clear out sale that I've ever had. So it's going to be online as well. So I'll do some marketing and stuff on social media. I'm also going to be part of the first. So it's going to be a first Thursdays event as well. So I'm linking with them, which is why it's on it's like the first Thursday of the month, which is why it's on the 4th of August.
I just want to ask you there, because this is the second or third time that you've mentioned that. What is this? The first Thursday?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so First Thursdays is an event in Cape Town where on the first Thursday of every month, all the galleries stay open late. So you can go to all the art shows and check out exhibitions.
Okay.
And I did one years ago, and now this will be the second one. So yeah, people are going to be able to come to our apartment as we're in the middle of packing up, getting ready to move towards the end of next month. I'm going to set up the apartment as an exhibition space. I've never done that. I'm going to see how that goes. And so people can come to my place or to this, come and buy directly from the studio. And I've just decided, like, the objective of the sale is to clean out the studio. So, I mean, I'm going to be selling drawings and things for probably ridiculous prices, but I need to clear out, make way for the new. So yeah, it's going to be on the 4th of August. People can come to our apartment between 7 and 9. They can send me a message on Instagram if they want more info. And if they want to buy from afar, I've got a catalog which I can send out. But basically, yes, I'm just going to be clearing out the studio. I'm actually busy with the catalog. So looking around, there's just art everywhere.
And what can people expect to get when they get there? Is it's a bit of everything?
It's a bit of everything. So there's going to be, it's broken up into 3, let's say, categories. So first of all, I'm also clearing out my online shop, which is prints. So my prints are going to be marked way down because I'm getting ready to load new drawings and stock onto my online store. So all the prints will be massively discounted. And then in the studio, there's going to be smaller drawings, so like A4, A3 drawings and paintings, and then larger works as well, which will be on view. I'm going to put out some of my installation stuff just for people to have a look at it. I'm going to put out some of my fabric. I do a lot of embroidery types of artworks. I'm going to put that out. I basically just want to show a little bit of my range, but also give people the opportunity to shop and buy art at ridiculous prices. Like, I don't like the idea of, only being accessible to a certain market. So if buying art is, if it's been a bit too expensive, then like studio sales is where people can buy art if they are looking to shop art bargains, let's call it. I mean, I buy a lot from other artists from their studio sales. So
when you say ridiculous prices, it is ridiculously cheap, not ridiculously expensive.
No. So actually, a lot of the work, let's say like A4, A3, I'm selling work for like 390 Rand. I mean, I never, like, that's a good price.
Yeah.
It's maybe, I mean, it's maybe a bit too good, but I mean, I think one massive studio sale, once every 2 to 3 years of this type of sale, I want to make the work available. I wanted to go to homes and have people put art up in their homes and stuff instead of it just kind of, filling up my studio drawers. So I'm talking about like 250 Rand, 390 Rand, 500 Rand, 600 Rand, going up all the way to, I think 3,000 is the most expensive piece.
There's some of the stuff, especially some of the daily drawings that I've seen, because I did see on one of your videos that you put on Instagram, you made like a massive wall, sort of you stuck all of them on the wall.
Yes.
And there's
2 or
3 that are, there's 2 or 3 of them that I actually want. So when we're done with this, I just want to make my pick there before you put them on sale, and then please take them out because I want them.
Actually, the daily drawings are not going on sale because I think that they're priced pretty competitively already, but they will be on display, and if people are interested to buy, like, they can buy. And then after the sale, the daily drawings are going on cup on a going to, I'm just going to say, a new home. So in a public space. So I actually am going to have it installed as a drawing installation, all the daily drawings. If you want to buy one, I kind of swap them out. You get yours, I put a new one in. It'll be in a public place, and it'll be like this living drawing installation where I'm going to keep swapping out the work. So they will be here. They will be available to buy, just not part of the studio sale. The studio sale, it's older works. So I'm making ready for, I'm clearing out to make space for all the new stuff I've got going on. And the daily drawings are kind of part of a new project. So, yeah.
The last thing that I want to ask you about is I think you call it the send word installation or project, yes. Or and this is, I think, what I found the most interesting, because I like it because it's raw and it's sort of as is type thing. So it's a embroidery based
installation.
Installation. But what I like about it is it's so you do embroidery on these white pieces of cloth, and it's just random stuff. Like some of the stuff I saw is like just what the fuck, which I love, and I think I like it because I've been told pretty much my whole life that I swear too much. And
no such thing.
I've always believed that it's bullshit, because I feel like that's who I am. Okay, wait, no, that's wrong. It's not who I am, but it's just, I feel like if you filter yourself, the people that are in conversation with you or whatever, they're getting a less of a piece of you if you have to filter yourself. And I try to be as unfiltered as possible. And I do think that if I have to filter out swear words, then there's only going to be a small little piece of me left. And that's, I think, what I enjoy a lot about that specific installation of yours is stuff like it's very simplistic. It's just a white piece of cloth with the word, basically in English, what the fuck, put on it. And there's another piece saying just Here toch. And there's another one which I wanna ask you about, saying sonskyn, soekie see, wat maak ek nou? Which is basically, for English people listening, it's sunshine, search for the sea,
what do I do next?
Now?
What do I do now?
So
Philip, just to give you some
thing behind it. Yeah,
let me tell you about that project. So that is my COVID, let's call it artwork. So what happened was, during the first lockdown, Neil and I, we were in Bangkok, and we, like, obviously, as with everybody, everything came to a halt, and not being sure what to do next, I put an open call out to my community on social media to start sending me words that they felt best reflected their state of mind during that time. So as it stands, so people started sending me words, and so those are all actually other people's words that I then embroider onto bits of fabric. And it's originally I was going to have it bound as like a very big fabric book, because the sheets are quite big, like say like around A2 size, and then each page has actually I've got one right here that I can show you in their more finished form. But it's a collection of words that's been sent to me from all over the world, of how other people felt during the lockdown. So, it was just so interesting to see like the stuff that came out, because some of the words are very light and funny, and then some of the words are very emotionally charged and loaded.
Yeah.
I actually more recently came across the words from a friend of mine who committed suicide during the lockdown, and found his words that I'm yet to embroider. So obviously that packs a bit of a punch. But then, then you set that against somebody else's experience of the lockdowns, where it was a parent, and he said that he's actually a famous South African comedian, and he said what he would remember from the lockdown is his 4-year-old who ran outside every morning to call the old lady next door, and he would just remember, Julie! That's what he's going to remember from. Which I thought, and then other people saying they're worried about how this is going to affect their diet, and then, somebody else saying they feel like they're packed inside a box, or, what the fuck, or so it was just all these kind of very different responses coming from all over the world, but all having like this very common thread of just raw being, for lack of a better word, just being in your absolutely raw state, like just feel the way you feel, and like a very true response.
Yeah, it's very raw, it's very unapologetic, it's just true to whatever you're feeling, and I think that's why I'm enjoying it so much, that the few posts that I saw about that, it's just I think we've sort of gone into a culture where everyone is very tippy-toe about what we're allowed to say and what we're allowed to do, and I feel like, fuck that. I'm so over thinking about what I have to say and all. It's just fucking be. Just do
and
you.
It's so counterintuitive to what it means to be human. Because being human means that, we say things and we make mistakes, but we have the ability to learn and think and grow and adapt and change, and then make better decisions in the future. Like this, not this period of not being allowed to make mistakes or say what we really want to say, I think is just the most counterintuitive nonsense. Like it's not true to, I don't think it's true to who we are. I think there should be more room to speak freely and to make mistakes, but then to say sorry and grow and change, and so no, I'm with you there. Just trying to, so actually I haven't finalized my embroidery team in South Africa, but you will see that these have been done so beautifully. And so I worked with a group of nuns in Bangkok that they actually did a lot of the embroidery, because it just became too much for me to do by myself. And so I always thought, when I was sending like a blog that said "what the fuck," or I was like, oh, at what point are these good nuns going to tell me to fuck off? Which they never did.
Love it. I love this. This is amazing. So you actually sent. Wait. So you had nuns, like legit nuns, embroidering "what the fuck."
Yes. Yes.
I love it. It's amazing.
As well as as well as duet, which of course they don't know what that. No, like all kinds of the nuns, but they were amazing, and they never censored me. Luckily, like that, my embroideries always came back like the way I wanted them. So, very objective group of nuns, my kind of group of nuns. So this is just to give you an idea. Like this is one page, and then
what does it say there? Sorry, self-reflect.
So this one says peaceful.
And peaceful, yeah.
Still, self-reflective. Relieved. So these were all kind of peace-inspired words. I started arranging them a little bit, and then also what I did is, if I made a mistake, the nuns of course never made a mistake. I made mistake, but if I made a mistake, instead of trying to fix it, I just continued. So
this is the one thing that I wanted to ask you, because this is what I love. Is it's not a piece of writing where or a type piece of something where you press backspace. You put it down, and if you made a mistake, you just put a line through it or something, and then you carried on. I fucking love that.
Yeah, because that is, I mean, how wrong would it be, in the spirit of this project, of people sending me like their very raw and real emotions? Like I just felt to correct mistakes would be the wrong thing to do. When I made a mistake, I guess that's my way of inserting myself into the project. That's where I get to be raw and real and just show that, things are, I make mistakes and it's okay, and just keep going. Fuck it. Keep going, get on with it. This is actually I just found the block.
Okay, so for people, if you want to just keep it up there, for people that are just listening, it says, when I look back at this period, the word that will stick with me is the one my 3-year-old uses to get the attention of the granny over the wall so they can have their daily chat. Julie! I love it.
Yeah.
How much time did it take you to do that piece?
It's difficult to say, because it takes me about a day to do one little rectangle, and then there's 8 rectangles per page, and then they are all stitched onto the page, and that was done on machine by the nuns, and then the nuns did some of the embroidery. So it was a bit of a team effort, but it's been going for a couple of years, this project now. So I have all of these projects kind of in my back pocket, and then when something comes up and it falls within the what's the word? Not the boundaries, like within the parameters or whatever set out by the open call or exhibition call or whatever, then I'll submit a project. So I don't find an exhibition or an open call and then try and make work for that. I actually look for open calls and then try and submit work that I've already got.
Okay.
And I actually, which I'm a project that I'm very excited about, which is here. I've done it. The music's been written as well. So remember I was telling you earlier about how I've got this list, and when a project isn't quite making sense, I look to this list and I see if I can introduce another material into the mix, to reimagine the project. And so I took a bunch of these words, and then I divided the words into like let's call it the positive words, upbeat words, and the emotionally heavy words, negative words. Not negative, but you understand what I mean. Yeah. And then with my cousin, she lives in London. She plays for so I might butcher this. Like I want to say the London Chamber Orchestra, but she plays in orchestras all over the world, viola. And we assigned notes to the words, and then she wrote a piece of music, and that piece was turned into, so it's like on a Perspex box, all these words are printed. You scan a QR code at the bottom, which then takes you to the NFT artwork, which is then a piece of music that she wrote. But it's all, the notes are all, they all come from assigning notes to these words that people send to me in lockdown. So it's almost like a lockdown melody. So yeah, I've got these words that people send. Like it's not to say that the only shape that they're going to take is in the form of this fabric book. They might become something else. I like that, reimagining what something can be, or yeah. And I mean, that is also like great credit there goes to my mentor, because she helped me to, sometimes you just have to set ideas about what something should be, or how it should be presented. And having been working for her for a couple of months now, she's just constantly like challenging me, going like, is this the only way for this project to exist? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about introducing this? Like, but what about this? Go read that, so
who, sorry, just to make sure, who is this mentor that you're talking about?
Heidi, her name's Heidi Artman. So she used to own the Artman Gallery in Cape Town, and she's been a judge on Sassel, I think on ABSA art competition as well. I mean, she's just so knowledgeable, and she's got more art qualifications than I could ever dream of. She's just amazing at writing. She's just very, very knowledgeable, and I'm just so grateful to her contribution.
The second to last thing I want to ask you about, and I'm hoping that I've got the last bit will be interesting, but this is just something that I noticed now, and I'm hoping that this has got an interesting story. Your wedding ring that you're wearing is it's interesting.
So this is not actually my real engagement ring. This is the grandmother I was telling you about, who had the porcelain doll studio. This was her ring. So it's a very Art Deco ring. My engagement ring, which is beautiful, it gives me a rash, and so I always joke with Neil and say, like, that is my physical aversion to the idea of marriage.
Oh no!
So I don't actually wear my ring that much, but I mean, I do. Neil bought that ring, so Neil bought that ring a year after we met, and he kept it for years. And we didn't really plan on getting married, even though I just said he bought and kept the ring. But I was never that interested in getting married, and I didn't think he was bothered either. So when we did get married, it was because I needed a spousal visa for us to go back to Asia. But I think people put way too much emphasis on, the idea of marriage and what that means. I think at the end of the day, Neil doesn't belong to me and I don't belong to him. It's a mutual decision that we have chosen each other's as partners. And as harsh and horrible as it might sound, but I'm very open to that. One day, I mean, certainly not now, I'm just head over heels in love with my husband, but one day that might change and it might look differently, and then we reassess. But never ever will I believe that he is mine in that sense, or that I am his. it's a mutual understanding of love and respect, and I don't care about any of the rest.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of the whole marriage thing. Me and my wife didn't have a sort of like the South African wedding type thing. We were obviously planning to immigrate to the UK, so we had the choice between, are we going to put R500,000 into a wedding or R500,000 into immigrating? So it's like, I'm not paying all that money for flowers and
absolutely,
a wedding cake.
Yeah.
And so we basically got married. It was just a guy that signed papers. We did have, I mean, our parents were there, and they actually made it very. It's actually a funny story. The guy that I used to work for, Bram Venter, he's got a place in Addo called Afrikanos Country Estate. So it's like you could go stay there. There's what do you call it? It's not like a hotel, but there's rooms, but it's like a 5-star place. It's very
okay.
It's 5-star. It's like fancy. They've got a restaurant and a bar and whatnot, but they've got a wedding venue type set up there. So they've got a hall or whatever. And Carlin, who runs the place, she's married to Fafa, who I used to farm with. He was one of the farm managers on the farm. Very good friends of mine. So I asked Carlin, who do you guys use to sort of, when people get married at Afrikaners, who do you guys use? And she put me onto Wim. I can't remember Wim's surname now. But she said, well, just give Wim a call. Spoke to Wim. He said, no, I'll do it. It's fine. Because we didn't want to, like I said, we didn't want to spend a shitload of money on a wedding because we needed to move here. Phoned Wim and said, listen here, it's sort of, I'm in a difficult situation because I'm in farming. I can't just go, okay, I'm going to just leave to go get married. It's time restricted. And he said, well, he's doing this wedding expo just outside Port Elizabeth at this wedding venue. So we could just come there the day. And I thought it was we signing papers and that's it. So my parents came up from Cape Town, and her parents are obviously in Port Elizabeth. And when we got there, Wim it was at was it the Lady Slipper? I think it was Lady Slipper. Can't remember, the Lady Slipper venue or whatever I might be wrong. My wife's not going to listen to this, so it's fine. So we were at this wedding expo type thing, and so they had the chapel set up for people to see what it looks like when you get married there.
Yeah.
So we were stood in the chapel. There were random people stood one side doing the flowers, and he quickly ran through. We said, we don't want the whole rigmarole of nice messages, what all that bullshit. Just
get to the point.
I must get to the point. Wim did a hell of a job. I love Wim. To be honest, I've not spoken to him since we got married, but no, we're still friends on Facebook and all of that. But we did this thing. We got married and all of that, and he said, no, but I have to stand in front of the flowers. There's flowers. I have to take some pictures, and it ended up being sort of a bit of a proper wedding.
Yes.
At an expo. At an expo. So we used the expo as our wedding, but it ended up being it's an interesting story.
I've
But
not
yeah,
heard that one before. I must say that is a cool story. That is a very nice wedding story.
I don't know. I've had so many friends. Obviously, I think women have a different sense of the whole thing of a wedding, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had so many friends where they go, I don't want to pay 30,000 rand for flowers.
Mm.
Now, I've never gone to a wedding and then the day after went like, you know what? It was a great wedding, but the flowers were shit. Like, you don't notice it. It's flowers are flowers. If they weren't there, it's like, who gives a fuck? I don't see the fucking point in spending 500,000 rand on a wedding. I don't get that. I'm very sorry. This might be pressing some buttons somewhere, but it's just I
Definitely,
don't get it.
definitely, you will be pressing some buttons somewhere. I mean, I didn't want to do the ceremony at internal affairs or whatever it's called. So I know I knew I didn't want that, but then I knew that um, I also didn't want to have like a big thing. So I so I'm very proud of the fact that our ceremony cost 23,000 rand. That's it. That was everything, and a majority of that went to Chef Chris Erasmus from Foliage Restaurant in Franschhoek. So I knew Chris, and I said to him, "Listen here, here's a budget. What can you make? Because we wanted really nice food, and I love Chris's food. And then my cake, or our cake, was a 3-tier Matisse inspired wedding cake. So the bottom tier of the cake was a Matisse landscape. The second tier was the something else. The faces, the Matisse black and white faces, and the top tier it had the leaves. And Sweet Lionheart, Nikki and Common from Sweet Lionheart, they'd made the cake, which was just an artwork. So we made sure that guests had really nice food. The cake was fucking delicious, and enough drink, and then that was it. Yeah, but I mean, I tend to, I'm not the hostess with the mostest. I do not like to entertain. It makes me anxious and nervous. And I'm always like thinking like, is everybody having a good time? Like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? So, we did a picnic on the farm in Franschhoek, which, was lovely. And I had like some little top made that I could wear again, and no wedding dress and no big hoopla. And I think my cousin stood with like a Bose speaker and like played a song like really loud. And yeah, but I think I just always wanted the emphasis to be on us and our experience of each other and
Yeah.
not anything else. I always said that, I was never ever planning on getting married until like when I met Neil. I thought, okay, I could marry you. Nobody else, but I could marry you, so I'll do it.
My wife was exactly the same. When we met, she also made it perfectly clear she doesn't want kids. She doesn't want to get married. None of that. That changed very quickly. Three years later, 4 years later, where we now, I'm not sure, but yeah, she's
Yeah.
obviously we're married and we've got little Luke, which is an interesting accoutrement to the situation. But yeah, having kids, we had a quick little chat, Nana, while
Mm.
we were on a piss break. Yeah, having kids is, oh my goodness, it's interesting, and I think I did mention it in my chat with Neil as well. I think there's everyone always sort of speaks about or talks about the what do you call it? Like the sunshiny rainbow part of having kids. And no one ever talks about the bullshit that you get behind the scenes. Like you said, going to the aquarium, and the kid doesn't give a fuck about the aquarium. It just want to go. He just wants to go up and down the steps, and that's where I chimed in and said, my kid has got the same fucking thing with steps. I'm so tired of going somewhere. Like we tend to not go to places that have got steps, because he just goes to steps and then he goes up, 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 and then you go up the stairs.
How old is Luke?
What did you say, Luke?
How old's Luke?
Yeah, Luke is 2. I don't know. I mean, he was born in April, so he's just over 2. But yeah, he loves steps. He loves fucking going up, 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 and then going whee when we go down, and then we go up, up, up. It kills me. It genuinely, I honestly, at one point, we went to a place called whatever, by the coast, and we went to a park there, and there was steps, not a lot of steps, like 10-15 steps, and we thought we were going to go on this walk. No, didn't go anywhere. Went up those fucking steps 27,000 times. And I honestly, at one point, felt like grabbing him, and this is now not politically correct at any point, and I just want to say, as a disclaimer, I will not do this, but it did play off in the back of my mind. I love my kid, but I wanted to grab him by the ankle and fucking smash him to bits on that bloody stairs, because we went up and down those stairs so many times, and I was so over it. And you cannot leave. You can't go away, because then it's tantrums. We
went for a walk yesterday in Deer Park in Cape Town, and there's a puddle, a muddy puddle.
And fucking puddles.
This far from this muddy, dirty puddle is a pile of dog shit. And so now Neil and I, we are kind of weighing, what is the possibility of there also being dog shit in that puddle? It's really high. Taking Jan Ben away from that muddy puddle yesterday was the biggest tantrum we've had to deal with in the last year. So we said, okay, let's take him to the river. And it's cold outside. The sun is starting to set. It's winter in Cape Town. And we said, okay, let's just take him to this fucking little stream so he can just stop shouting and throwing the biggest tantrum of his life. Take his clothes off. Okay, he had his nappy on, and we just left him we were sitting next to the stream. He was taking rocks, throwing it, walking through the stream, climbing up on the rocks, like playing, and then there's like this tiny little waterfall, and I could just see people walking past going, like, I mean, maybe I'm just projecting, but thinking, like, what are these parents doing? It's winter, that child's in a nappy, and I'm just keep going, like, he wants to be doing this, And finally, after like his lips turned blue, we like wrapped him up in a blanket, and we were like, okay, this is it. We are going home now. But no, Philip, I mean, the aquarium trip this weekend, it was interesting because literally could not give less a shit about this fish. We were just running around, and he fell twice. His mouth filled with blood twice. And it's just, honestly, I feel like talking about parenthood, that could be a separate podcast as well. But honest to God, it is the most difficult thing I have ever done in my entire life, starting from the birth all the way up to now. It is hard. It is hard. We did not plan on having kids. And so I think as well, like when you don't plan for like this massive thing that just come and it completely turns your world upside down, like that is interesting in itself. But And I mean, also, like, I love that child to death. I have literally, like, some nights I lay awake in bed and I imagine how I would kill somebody with my bare hands if somebody tried and did anything to my child. Like, literally, I would kill for that fucking little boy. But also, sometimes I'm just like, fuck. Like, can he just go like live with with like my mom, with his grandparents for like a week, so that I can just feel what it feels like to like miss him and appreciate him a little bit more, because I am just pushed to my absolute limits. But I think it's important to say that out loud. I have no issue
Definitely.
being that voice to whoever wants to hear it, because there's just too much like Wuhan nonsense about what it means to be a parent. It's intense and it's hard and it's amazing and rewarding, but it's intense and fucking hard. And yeah, it's interesting. But like, also then it's interesting to also watch, like, how my relationship to Neil changed, like, as soon as we became parents, and like seeing him as a parent, like, because it just made me love him on, like, often I think all the love that I could feel for this person has now been explored. There's nothing else. But then something happens, and then it's like this door into like a different realm that opens up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I love you, like, in this new way that I didn't envision, or in this new, like, a simple thing, like when we started working out together, like not separately, like it was the shared experience, and it really changed our dynamic and it added something to our relationship. And I love that. And same with parenthood, because Neil is just, God, I can just watch the two of them for hours. They were so entertaining. They were so like two peas in a pod. I just love watching them. And yeah, just, oh my gosh. But then, like, as hard as it is, and as so much, like, sometimes I feel like flinging my child through a window, I'm also like, how amazing are you, this little person that I've got, investment in, and that's a part of me and a part of my partner. And like seeing him, like, his new thing now is he just learned to make his first animal sound, which is a pig, and he just goes and then we're trying to teach him other sounds, and he's just like and it's the stupidest thing, but like
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I constantly go back and forth between, fuck, I don't want to see this kid again for the next week, and then I go to work and I don't see him for 2 hours, and then I phone my wife and I go, can I go fetch him at school? Can I go get him? I miss him.
Like when I do the bedtime, when it's when I'm on bedtime routine, and it's like, we call it varkensuur, which is witching hour, but yeah, we call it when I'm on varkensuur duty, and it's like dinner, because some evenings Neil has to work late, and then I'm on dinner and bath time, and I'm just like, oh my God, can I just get this fucking child in bed, because I just so badly need a break. I just like need a break. And then he's in bed for 15 minutes, and I'm like, I miss him. I want to go pick up young thing. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing. I must say, like, I really value and appreciate connecting with other parents, in a way that's not, in a raw, real way. And because I'm passionate about giving my experience exactly the way it is, and saying, sometimes I don't feel like being a mom, and sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes I just need a fucking break, and sometimes, because I'm not sure if it's said enough. Like, I mean, even you'd think after all the information and stuff that's available, like that, there's space for everybody to feel and say what they feel they need to say. But like a couple of weeks ago, I met this mom in the park, and she was asking about Jan Ben's sleep. And I said, listen, after 5 months of us just not sleeping, we realized like something needs to give. Like, I'm not a good mom anymore. We're exhausted. I'm not a good wife. Like, our partnership is not, like, our relationship is struggling because we are not sleeping. And so we decided to start sleep training. And I'm not talking about the sensitive type of, there's like sleep training, which is like full on intense sleep training, like put him down, he cries himself to sleep, tough, like he needs to get through it. And then there's like you still go in and you kind of sit with him. And no, we did like the hard one, because I just realized that like it's either that or my sanity going out the window, which is not good for anybody. And I was telling her, like, it's been really difficult, but we did it. He's sleep trained. And she looked at me and she said, I could never do that. And I was like, okay, never mind like what my experience has been or how hard it's been on my relationship or anything. Like, I felt very judged in that moment for, seemingly not doing the right thing. And I just thought after, well, fuck it. There'll be another mom out there who does understand how it feels like, and she'll get where I'm coming from.
Definitely.
And so I will be the voice for that mom.
No, I do think I think you said it in the perfect way. It's we do need to talk about the shitty part of parenthood.
Absolutely.
It's not all fucking roses and rainbows. It's definitely the most difficult thing that we've ever done. But it's mostly 99% of it is awesome. But then you do get that shitty part. Now, I've spoken about it before, and I think that's why kids are so cute when they're little, is to keep you from just fucking strangling them. Because they do shitty stuff. Like, Luke has got this thing now where, I don't want to keep on talking about this for too long, but Luke has got this thing now where he doesn't want, when you change his nappy in the morning, when you get him out of his nappy, then he runs around like a wild fucking animal. And then, so what happens when I'm on a later shift, if I only go to work at 7, then Allison will change his nappy when he wakes up, or, well, not change his nappy, just get him out of his nappy. Then he'll run to me. And then when I'm still in bed, he'll come into the room and go, "Oh, morning, Daddy," with a fucking Yorkshire accent. And then come stand next to the bed and then piss next to the bed. He'll just stand next to me and piss next to the bed. And then it's like, why? Why do I need to deal with this first thing in the morning? And then he'll just go, he'll stand there going, okay, I'm pushing, and then he'll go, oopsie. But then it's so cute that you can't really fucking. It's just
is brilliant.
It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Jan Ben's going through this phase where he does not want his nappy changed. He does not want clothes put on him. He doesn't want to undress, dress. Like, nothing with nappies and dressing. Everything around that at the moment is just a complete nightmare. So, but see, you never think ahead. Like, I'm thinking this is difficult and tricky. I haven't thought of the possibilities that he's going to one day run up to my bed and pee next to the bed and go, oopsie.
But listen,
I'm interested to see like what's next.
I think let's end the podcast on this note of oopsies.
Yeah.
I think we've gone through everything now. So if you're happy, then we can end it. Just take a minute, promote all that you need to promote. Where can people find you
remotely
on Instagram and all of that? Where can people find you?
Okay, so on Instagram it's Elzahn_art. It's ELZAHN_art. Instagram or website, elzahnnel.com, ELZAHNNEL.com. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'll put all of that in the description so people can just click on it. But yeah, Elzahn, listen here, thank you very much. This has been a hell of a lot of fun.
Thanks,
I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I hope the people that are listening enjoys it just as much. And yeah, we'll catch up again.
Yeah, let's do that. Thanks, Philip.
Okay, cheers, Elzahn. Bye bye.
Cheers.